The stars disappeared behind massive shadows. Captain Haiyan-Wu stood on the bridge of his freighter, the Morning Star, watching his display screens go dark one by one. Something enormous had just entered the sector, blocking out the light from distant suns. "What is that?" Minho asked from the engineering station. His fingers moved quickly across his controls, trying to get sensor readings. "I've never seen ships that big." Quan checked her navigation console. Her face went pale. "Captain, we need to jump out of here. Right now." Before Haiyan-Wu could respond, every screen on the bridge lit up with the same image. A massive alien face filled the displays. The creature had 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern, and its skin looked like dark metal. When it spoke, the translator struggled to keep up with the deep, rumbling voice. "Attention, humans of this sector. I am Warlord Thexvan of the Vorath Empire. Your species has been evaluated and found inferior. You have 48 hours to surrender all military forces and governmental systems. Resistance will result in complete annihilation." The screen changed to show images of other alien species. Planets burning, cities crumbling, entire civilizations kneeling before Vorath warriors. The display showed hundreds of conquered worlds, each one added to a growing list of the Vorath Empire's victories. "They've conquered everyone," Suho whispered. The medical officer had come to the bridge when the alarm started. The Zenthari lasted 3 days. The Krivax Federation fought for 2 weeks. No one has ever defeated the Vorath. Haiyan-Wu watched the display carefully. His crew expected him to give orders to run, to hide, to do anything except stay in the path of the Vorath fleet. But something about the situation didn't feel right to him. "Minho, what are the Vorath ships doing?" Haiyan-Wu asked. The engineer checked his sensors. "They're just sitting there, Captain. Perfect formation, no weapons charged, no fighters launched. They're broadcasting that message on every frequency, but they haven't fired a shot." "Exactly," Haiyan-Wu said. "They're not attacking. They're threatening." Gi-Wen turned in her seat. "Captain, that's what they always do. They give worlds time to surrender because they enjoy watching people panic. It's part of their psychological warfare." Haiyan-Wu nodded slowly. He had heard the stories about the Vorath. Everyone in the galaxy had. They were the boogeyman, the ultimate predator, the empire that could not be stopped. Their reputation alone made planets surrender without firing a single shot. "How many Vorath ships are there?" Haiyan-Wu asked. 37 capital ships, Minho reported. Plus, support vessels. We're talking about a fleet that could take on Earth's entire defensive grid. And how many systems do humans control? Haiyan-Wu continued. 47 last count, Suho answered. But we're spread thin. If the Vorath hit our core worlds, we won't be able to coordinate a defense in time. Haiyan-Wu walked to the main viewport and stared at the massive ships floating in the darkness. His crew thought he was being suicidal, but he was actually thinking clearly for the first time since the Vorath appeared. "They're performing," he said quietly. "This whole thing is a performance, Captain." Gi-Wen asked. "Think about it. They show up with overwhelming force, give us exactly 48 hours, broadcast videos of their previous conquests. They want us scared. They want us to surrender before they have to fire a shot." Haiyan-Wu turned to face his crew. "What if we don't play along?" Minho stood up from his station. "Captain, with all respect, they have 37 warships. We have a cargo freighter with barely functional shields." "I'm not talking about fighting them," Haiyan-Wu said. "I'm talking about understanding them. Every species has weaknesses, even the Vorath. And how do you plan to find their weakness?" Suho asked. Haiyan-Wu smiled slightly. "We accept their terms. We go talk to them." The bridge fell silent. Even the computer systems seemed to hold their breath. Gi-Wen was the first to speak. "You want to board a Vorath warship?" "Voluntarily?" "They accepted surrender delegations from other species," Haiyan-Wu said. "I checked the historical records. The Zenthari sent ambassadors. The Krivax sent negotiators. Every species that surrendered sent someone to talk terms first, and then those species became slaves," Minho pointed out. "Yes. But the ambassadors always came back with the details before the actual surrender happened. The Vorath follow protocols. They have rules. Hyun-woo walked back to his captain's chair. We send them a message. We request an audience to discuss terms of surrender. They'll let us on board because it fits their pattern. And once we're on board, we learn everything we can about them. And then what? Ji-won asked. Even if we learn something useful, we're still one small ship. Then we share what we learn with everyone else, Hyun-woo said. The Voroth have conquered hundreds of species, but they've never faced humanity before. Maybe we're different. Maybe we can find something the others missed. Suho crossed his arms. Or maybe we just get ourselves killed for nothing. Maybe Hyun-woo admitted. But I'd rather die trying than spend the rest of my life wondering if we could have made a difference. He looked at each crew member. I'm not ordering anyone to come with me. This is volunteer only. I need 2 people to board the Vorath flagship. Everyone else stays on the Morning Star and prepares to jump away if things go wrong. The crew exchanged glances. Hyun-woo waited. He knew he was asking a lot. The Voroth had a reputation for being ruthless, merciless, and utterly without compassion. Walking onto their ship could mean torture, death, or worse. Ji-won stood up first. I'm coming. Someone needs to keep you from doing something stupid. I volunteer as well, Suho said. If we're going to observe the Voroth, we need someone who understands biology and communication. I've studied 17 alien languages. Maybe I can pick up something useful. Hyun-woo felt a wave of gratitude toward his crew. Thank you. Minho, you're in command of the Morning Star while we're gone? If we're not back in 6 hours, or if the Voroth make any hostile moves, you jump to the nearest human colony and warn them about everything you've seen. Understood. Captain, Minho said quietly. Hyun-woo sat down at the communications console and began composing a message to the Voroth flagship. His hands were steady, but his heart was racing. This was either the bravest or the most foolish thing he had ever done. Possibly both. The message was simple and direct. Captain Hyun-woo of the human vessel Morning Star requested permission to board the Vorath flagship to discuss terms of surrender on behalf of his crew. He kept the language formal and respectful, exactly the way the historical records showed other species had approached the Voroth. He sent the message and waited. 30 seconds later, a response came back. The same deep voice from the original broadcast, but this time addressing him directly. Your request is acknowledged, Captain Hyun-woo. You and 2 crew members may board the Eternal Dominion in 1 hour. You will be unarmed. Any deviation from protocol will result in immediate destruction of your vessel. Warlord Thexfon will grant you an audience. The communication ended. Hyun-woo looked at Ji-won and Suho. 1 hour, he said. Let's get ready to meet a warlord. The docking bay of the Eternal Dominion was bigger than Hyun-woo's entire ship. The Morning Star looked like a toy as it settled onto the landing platform, surrounded by Voroth fighter craft that could probably destroy it with a single blast. Hyun-woo, Gi-won, and Suho stood at the airlock, waiting for permission to exit. Remember, Hyun-woo said quietly, we're here to observe and learn. Don't antagonize them, but don't act too afraid either. Show respect, but maintain dignity. The airlock opened with a hiss. Immediately, 6 Voroth warriors surrounded them. Each alien stood nearly 3 meters tall, covered in biomechanical armor that seemed to be part of their skin. They had multiple arms, each one ending in what looked like a weapon or a tool. Their faces were hidden behind helmets, but Hyun-woo could see their 4 eyes glowing through the visors. Follow, one of the warriors commanded. The translator made its voice sound mechanical and cold. They walked through corridors that seemed designed to intimidate. The walls were lined with display cases showing trophies from conquered worlds. Hyun-woo saw weapons, flags, crowns, and artifacts from dozens of different species. Each case had a plaque describing the world it came from and how long it took the Voroth to conquer it. 3 days for the Zenthari, Gi-won whispered, reading one plaque. 2 weeks for the Krivax. The longest resistance was 41 days by something called the Halari Collective. Suho was watching the Voroth guards carefully. He leaned close to Hyun-woo and spoke very quietly. Captain, I'm picking up something strange. Their pheromone signals are off. What do you mean? Hyun-woo asked without moving his lips. Most aggressive species produce stress pheromones when they're about to fight or when they're angry. But the Voroth are producing something different. It's closer to anticipation, or maybe hunger. Before Hyenwu could respond, they reached a massive door. It opened slowly, revealing the throne room of the Eternal Dominion. The chamber was enormous, with a ceiling that disappeared into darkness above. At the far end, on a raised platform, sat Warlord Dexven. The warlord was even more impressive in person. He was larger than his warriors, with additional armor plates and what looked like advanced cybernetic enhancements. His 4 eyes fixed on the 3 humans as they approached. Around him stood his war council, 10 other high-ranking Vorath officers, who watched the humans with cold interest. Captain Hyenwu. Dexvan's voice boomed through the chamber. You wish to discuss terms of surrender? How refreshing. Most species waste time with threats or pleading. You, at least, show some intelligence. Hyenwu bowed slightly, the way he had seen in the historical records. Thank you for receiving us, Warlord Dexvan. We hoped to understand what surrender to the Vorath Empire would mean for humanity. Dexvan leaned back in his throne. Your species is young and weak. You have spread to only 47 systems in your entire existence. We have conquered thousands. You possess no weapons that could threaten us. No technology we do not already have better versions of. And no military strategy that we have not encountered and defeated before. One of the War Council members stepped forward. Your surrender terms are generous, considering your worthlessness. 90% of all resources will be given to the Vorath Empire as tribute. All humans will be integrated into our labor caste. You will work, you will obey, and you will be grateful that we allow you to continue existing. And if we refuse, Hyenwu asked calmly, then we demonstrate why refusal is pointless, another council member said. We will select one of your worlds at random and destroy it completely. Then we will ask again. We can continue this process until you have no worlds left, or until you accept the obvious truth that resistance is impossible. Hyenwu pretended to consider this, while actually observing everything around him. Giwan was doing the same, her eyes moving carefully across the room, memorizing the layout, the positions of guards, the locations of exits and control panels. Suho was still monitoring the pheromone signals. He caught Hyenu's eye and gave a tiny nod toward one of the council members. That particular Voroth kept glancing at a display on his wrist, checking the time. These terms seem definitive, Hyenwu said carefully. But I have questions about the integration process. How would human governmental structures be dissolved? What happens to our existing trade agreements with other species? How would the labor caste system work for a species with different biological needs than the Voroth? Dexvan looked surprised. Most species either accepted immediately or broke down into emotional responses. Asking administrative questions was unusual. You ask about bureaucracy while your species faces extinction? One council member asked. If we're going to surrender, I want to understand exactly what we're surrendering to, Hyenwu replied. My people will ask me these questions. I should have answers. The warlords seemed to appreciate this logic. Very well. The dissolution process takes approximately 6 months. We have protocols developed over centuries of conquest. Your governments will be replaced with Vorath administrators. Your trade agreements become void, as all resources belong to the Empire. As for biological needs, we have conquered carbon-based species before. You will adapt, or you will not. It matters little to us, Hyenwu asked more questions, deliberately making them detailed and tedious. He asked about taxation structures, resource allocation systems, and labor scheduling. The Vorath answered with growing impatience, but they answered, it was part of their process, their ritual of conquest. They had done this hundreds of times before. Meanwhile, Suho was picking up more information from the pheromone signals. The Vorath were definitely hungry. Not just a little hungry, but genuinely uncomfortable. Several council members had now checked their time displays. Whatever schedule they were on, something was making them anxious. After nearly an hour of questions, Hyenwu decided to make his move. Warlord Dexvan, I appreciate your patience with my questions. In human culture, when we discuss important matters, we often do so over a meal. It helps create understanding between parties. Would you be willing to continue this discussion while we share food? The throne room went silent. Several council members looked at each other in confusion. Dex Vaughn's 4 eyes blinked in a pattern that Suho's translator recognized as surprise. You wish to eat now? The warlord asked. It would be a gesture of good faith, Hyunwoo said, and it would give me a chance to understand Vorath culture better. What a species eats tells you a lot about who they are. Finn considered this. The request was strange, but not threatening, and there was logic to it. Understanding each other's cultures could make the integration process smoother. Besides, the warlord himself was getting hungry. They had been on alert status since entering human space, and that meant delayed meal times. Very well, Vexvon said. We will share sustenance. It will demonstrate the superiority of Vorath provisions compared to your primitive human food. He gestured to his attendants. Bring forth the officers' rations. Several Vorath attendants hurried out of the throne room. Hyanwoo, Jiwon, and Suho exchanged quick glances. This was either going to reveal something important, or it was going to be a complete waste of time. The attendants returned carrying ornate containers. Each one was decorated with symbols that Suho's translator identified as Vorath, military honors, and conquest markers. The containers were placed on a ceremonial table that was brought out between the Sesfon and where the humans stood. Behold, the Sesfon announced, the sustenance of conquerors. These rations have fueled the Vorath military through thousands of campaigns across multiple galaxies. They represent the pinnacle of nutritional science and military efficiency, one of the council members added. We conquered the world that developed this food technology 3 cycles ago. It has revolutionized our logistics. Where we once needed massive supply chains, we can now sustain our warriors for months on these provisions alone. A container was placed in front of Hyanwoo. He looked at it, noting the craftsmanship and the proud way the Vorath were presenting it. Whatever was inside, they clearly considered it special. Thank you, Hanwoo said. May I open it? Of course, Thexwen said. Witness the superiority of Vorath military science. Hyanwoo reached for the container's seal and opened it slowly. The smell hit him first. The smell was unmistakable. Sharp, tangy, fermented. Hyanwoo had grown up with that smell. His grandmother made it every autumn. His mother packed it in his lunchboxes when he was a child. Every Korean space station he had ever visited had that exact smell somewhere in the galley. It was kimchi. Hyanwoo stared into the Vorath military ration container. Inside was fermented vegetables, carefully arranged. Next to it was what looked like dried fish, and in a smaller compartment, a dark brown paste that he recognized immediately as doenjang, fermented soybean paste. There was even a small portion of gochugaru, the red pepper flakes his grandmother used. He stood completely still, his brain trying to process what he was seeing. This was impossible. The Vorath Empire, the most feared military force in the galaxy, the conquerors of thousands of worlds, were eating Korean food. Not something similar to Korean food. Not an alien version that resembled it. Actual, real, Korean food. G1 leaned over to look into the container. Her eyes went wide. She opened her mouth, closed it, then whispered, "Is that what I think it is?" Suho pulled out his portable scanner and ran it over the contents. His hands started shaking as he read the results. "Captain," he said quietly, "the molecular structure matches Earth food databases perfectly. This is kimchi made with Napa cabbage, Korean radish, and traditional fermentation methods. The protein source is dried pollock. The paste is doenjang with a fermentation period of approximately 6 months. This is not similar to Korean food. This is Korean food." Hyanwoo felt something building in his chest. It started as a small flutter, then grew into a trembling sensation. He tried to hold it back, but he couldn't. A laugh escaped his lips. Just a small one at first, barely a chuckle. Then another laugh came out, louder this time, then another. Within seconds, Hyanwoo was laughing uncontrollably. Tears ran down his face. His sides hurt. He tried to stop, but every time he looked at the container of superior Veroth military rations, he laughed harder. Jiwan started laughing too. She covered her mouth, trying to be respectful, but it was no use. The situation was too absurd. Suho joined in, his professional composure breaking completely. The three humans stood in the throne room of the most powerful warship in the Vorath fleet, laughing so hard they could barely stand. The Vorath War Council shifted uncomfortably. Their pheromone signals changed to confusion and growing anger. Several guards reached for their weapons. Vexvan rose from his throne, his full height making him look like a mountain of metal and fury. What is the meaning of this disrespect? The warlord's voice boomed through the chamber. You dare mock the Vorath Empire in our own throne room. Hianwu tried to compose himself. He wiped tears from his eyes, took several deep breaths, and held up his hand in apology. I'm sorry, Warlord Dexvan. I apologize. It's just, I need to ask you something very important. You'll explain this insult immediately, or I will have you executed where you stand. Dexvan growled. Hianwu managed to control his laughter, though his voice still shook. Warlord, you said you conquered the world that developed this food technology. Can you tell me more about that world? What was it called? One of the council members checked a data display. The conquest was 3 cycles ago. The planet was designated as Target 847 during the campaign. The native inhabitants called it Terra. Specifically, we invaded a peninsula region on that world. The natives there called themselves Korean. The throne room fell completely silent. Even the background hum of the ship's system seemed to fade away. Hianwu's smile disappeared. His expression became serious, almost sad. Warlord Dexvan, I need to tell you something. That world, Terra, is what we call Earth. That peninsula is called Korea. And I was born there. Several of the Vorath council members made sounds that the translator couldn't process properly. Dexvan's 4 eyes narrowed. Impossible. The world we conquered was primitive. They had barely developed space travel. They had no military presence. When our fleet arrived, they surrendered immediately without any resistance. Because they weren't warriors, Hianwu said quietly. They were farmers. Agricultural researchers. Scientists working on traditional food preservation techniques for the colony worlds. You didn't conquer a military installation, Warlord. You conquered research stations and farming communities. Suho held up his scanner. Captain's right. I'm reading the exact bacterial cultures used in traditional Korean fermentation. Lactobacillus kimchi, Leuconostoc mesenteroids, Weissella species. These are the exact same microorganisms Korean people have been using for over 3,000 years. The fermentation signatures match our historical records perfectly, Guan added. And the ingredients. Napa, cabbage, Korean radish, dried pollock, fermented soybeans. These aren't just similar ingredients, Warlord. These are the exact species and preparation methods documented in Korean culinary history going back millennia. Dexvan sat back down slowly. His war council began pulling up records, checking data, confirming what the humans were saying. The more they checked, the more uncomfortable they became. But we improved upon it, one council member said defensively. We optimized the fermentation process. We increased the nutritional density. We made it suitable for military logistics across galactic distances. Hianwu walked closer to the table. May I? He gestured to the container. At Dexvan's nod, he picked up some of the kimchi and examined it. You increased the garlic content by about 15%. You added a bit more gochugaru to boost the vitamin C levels. You modified the fermentation time to make it shelf-stable for longer periods. Set it down gently. These aren't improvements, Warlord. These are personal preferences. My grandmother does the exact same thing. She likes extra garlic. My uncle prefers more pepper flakes. Every Korean family has their own version of these recipes. What you're calling revolutionary military science is just someone's grandmother's recipe. Another council member pulled up more data. But the database. We acquired an extensive database of food preparation techniques from the conquered world. Thousands of variations, detailed fermentation protocols, nutritional analyses. You stole a recipe collection, Juan said bluntly. Those farming communities, those research stations, were testing and documenting traditional Korean recipes for the colonies. They kept databases because that's what scientists do. They record everything. Minho's voice suddenly came through on Hyenwoo's communicator. He had been listening from the Morning Star. Captain, I just finished searching through the historical records. 3 cycles ago, there was an incident at the Seonam Agricultural Research Colony. All communication was lost suddenly. The colony had 2,300 people, all civilians, mostly food scientists, agricultural experts, and their families. When Earth sent ships to investigate, the entire colony was gone. No survivors, no bodies, no explanation. Hyenwoo looked up at Dexvan. That was you. You took them. They were integrated into the Empire as per standard protocol, Dexvan said. But his voice had lost some of its certainty. You took farmers and scientists and their children, Hyenwoo said, his voice harder now. People who were growing vegetables and perfecting their grandmother's recipes, and you took their food. Not weapons. Not military technology. Not advanced science. Their lunch. Suho pulled up more data on his scanner. Captain, according to the Vorith Zone records, they've restructured their entire military logistics around this food source. Their supply chains, their storage facilities, their nutritional planning for their warriors. Everything is based on these rations. 3 cycles, Juan said, doing the math in her head. The Vorith said they've used this food technology to extend their campaigns. That means for 3 years, the mighty Vorith Empire, conquerors of thousands of worlds, have been running on stolen kimchi. One of the younger Vorith officers spoke up, his voice uncertain. But our warriors are stronger now. Our campaigns last longer. Our soldiers can fight harder and recover faster. This food source has made us more powerful. Of course it did, Hyenwoo said. Korean food is designed to be nutritious, easy to preserve, and perfect for long journeys. Our ancestors developed these recipes over thousands of years, specifically because they needed food that could last through long winters and difficult times. It's good food. Really good food. But it's not military technology. It's just lunch. Dexvan stared at the container of kimchi on the table. His 4 eyes moved between the food and the humans. You are saying that our empire's logistical superiority, the thing that has allowed us to project power across multiple galaxies, is based on primitive Earth food? I'm saying your empire's logistical superiority is based on 3,000 years of Korean culinary development, Hyenwoo corrected. And calling it primitive is honestly kind of insulting to my grandmother. The War Council erupted into heated discussion. Some Vorith insisted it changed nothing. They still had superior weapons and ships. Others pointed out the psychological impact. If this information spread, the Vorath reputation would be destroyed. A few began checking their own ration containers, as if seeing them for the first time. Hyenwoo let them argue for a moment, then raised his voice. Warlord Dexvan, may I make a proposal? The arguing stopped. Every Vorith, I turned to Hyenwoo. The human captain stood calmly in the middle of their throne room, apparently unafraid despite being surrounded by the galaxy's most feared warriors. You have no position to make proposals, Dexvan said coldly. You are here to discuss your surrender. Actually, I'm here to offer you a chance to avoid the biggest embarrassment in galactic history, Hyenwoo replied. His voice was steady, almost friendly. Let me explain what's about to happen if you continue with your invasion of human space. He pulled out his datapad and displayed it so the Vorath could see. Right now, my ship is transmitting a compressed data package to every human colony in our network. The package contains everything we've learned here today. Detailed scans of your military rations, comparative analysis with Earth food databases, the complete history of Korean culinary traditions, and the story of how the Vorith Empire's logistics are based on stolen recipes from farmers. Dexvan leaned forward. You would spread lies about the Vorith Empire? Not lies. Truth. Documented, verified, scientifically confirmed truth, Suho said, holding up his scanner. I have molecular evidence, chemical signatures, bacterial cultures. Any independent lab in the galaxy can verify our findings. Guan pulled up her own display. And we've set it to auto-broadcast if we don't cancel it. Every 6 hours, we need to send a confirmation code, or the data gets released to every news network, every diplomatic channel, every information hub in known space. You would not dare, one of the council members snarled. We could destroy your entire species, you could. Hyan-Wu agreed. But by the time you finished, everyone would know why. The galaxy would know that the mighty Vorath Empire killed an entire species just to hide the fact that they can't make their own kimchi. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the ship's systems seemed to hold their breath. Let me paint you a picture, Hyan-Wu continued. Right now, your reputation is your greatest weapon. Species surrender to you before you fire a shot because they're terrified of the Vorath. They believe you're invincible. They believe you're superior in every way. He gestured to the container on the table. But what happens when they find out the truth? When they learn that your legendary military efficiency runs on lunch recipes stolen from farmers? When they discover that the food you proudly serve to your warriors, the sustenance you claim represents Vorath's superiority, it's actually Korean food that's been made the same way for 3,000 years. Dexavon's hands gripped the arms of his throne. Hyan-Wu could see the warlord's mind racing, calculating, understanding the implications. The Zenthari will laugh at you, Hyan-Wu said. The species you conquered in 3 days will realize you beat them while eating stolen lunch. The Krivax Federation will tell stories about how the great Vorath warriors need human grandmothers to feed them. Every single species you've ever conquered will start asking questions. What else about the Vorath is not as impressive as it seems? What other parts of their reputation are built on stolen technology? One of the council members stepped forward angrily. We have conquered based on military might, strategic superiority, and technological advancement. One food source does not define the Vorath Empire. But it does, Guan said quietly, because you made it define you. You restructured your entire military logistics around it. You said it yourself, this food source has fueled your expansion for 3 cycles. It allowed you to extend your campaigns, reach further into the galaxy, conquer more worlds. Your recent victories are directly tied to this food. And now every one of those victories will be questioned, Suho added. Did you win because you were superior, or because you happened to steal really good lunchboxes from Korean farmers? Minho's voice came through the communicator again. Captain, I'm monitoring communications across the sector. Multiple human colonies are preparing defensive positions. Word about the Vorath fleet is spreading fast. But I've also detected something interesting. There are other species watching. The Zenthari resistance has ships nearby. Some independent Krivax units are monitoring the situation too. Everyone wants to see how humanity responds to the Vorath. Hyan-Wu nodded slowly. You see, Warlord, this is a pivotal moment. The galaxy is watching. If you conquer us, they'll just see another Vorath victory. But if this information gets out, if everyone learns the truth about your rations, about the farmers you took, about the recipes you stole, then every species you've ever conquered will see you differently. Psychological warfare is part of conquest, Dexavon said, but his voice sounded defensive. We use fear as a weapon. Every empire does this. It's true, Hyan-Wu agreed. But your psychological warfare depends on respect, on being seen as superior and invincible. What you're facing now is not fear. It's mockery. And mockery is much more dangerous than fear. You can recover from military defeats. You can rebuild after losses. But you can't recover from being a joke. The War Council erupted again, this time with more panic in their voices. Some argued for immediate attack, to destroy the Morning Star and every human colony before the information spread. Others pointed out that would only confirm the story. A few suggested negotiating, finding some middle ground. Dexvin raised one massive hand, silencing them all. He looked at Hyan-Wu with something that might have been respect, or might have been hatred. Perhaps both. What do you want, human? It's simple, Hyan-Wu said. You leave. You withdraw your fleet from human space immediately. You don't come back. And in return, we don't tell anyone about your lunch problem. You would allow the Vorath Empire to retreat without consequence, Dexavon asked suspiciously. I'm offering you the chance to walk away with your reputation intact, Hyan-Wu corrected. You leave now, and as far as the galaxy knows, you decided humanity wasn't worth conquering. Maybe you found us too strong. Maybe you had other priorities. Whatever story you want to tell, that's up to you, Yuan added. But if you stay, if you attack, we release everything. And I promise you, Warlord, the galaxy will remember the Vorath Empire as the conquerors who ran on stolen kimchi. That's what your legacy will be. One of the older council members spoke up. Warlord, we should consider this offer seriously. Our reputation is our greatest asset. The Krievax had better weapons than us. The Zenthari had superior numbers. The Halari Collective had technology we still don't fully understand, but they all surrendered because they believed we were unbeatable. If that belief is shattered, another council member continued, we will face resistance everywhere. Species that surrendered will rebel. Species we were planning to conquer will fight harder. Our empire could collapse. Dexvan stood slowly. He walked down from his throne and approached Hyanwu. The human captain didn't back away, even though the warlord towered over him. They stood face to face, or rather face to chest, given the height difference. You fight with shame, Dexvan said quietly. The Krievax fought with weapons. The Zenthari fought with strategy. The Halari fought with their hive mind. But you humans, you fight with embarrassment. You turn our strength into a weakness by revealing the truth. We fight with whatever works, Hyanwu said simply. And right now, the truth works pretty well. Vixfon stared at him for a long moment. If we leave, what guarantee do we have that you will not release this information anyway? You don't have any guarantee, Hyanwu admitted. You'll have to trust us. Just like we had to trust you wouldn't just kill us when we boarded your ship. Sometimes trust is all you have. The warlord's 4 eyes blinked in that pattern Suho recognized as surprise. Perhaps no one had spoken to Vexfon this way in centuries. Perhaps the Vorath had forgotten what it was like to meet someone who wasn't afraid of them. And if we develop our own food sources? Vexfon asked. If we remove this dependency on Earth food, then you do that, Hyanwu said. Become self-sufficient. That's actually smart strategy. But do it after you leave our space. Do it on your own time, with your own resources. Not by conquering the people who invented the food in the first place. Vexfon turned and walked back to his throne. He sat down heavily, the weight of the decision visible even in his alien posture. The War Council waited in silence. How long do we have to withdraw? The warlord finally asked. 6 hours, Guan said. That's when the next auto-broadcast is scheduled. If you're gone by then, we send the cancel code. If other species ask why we left. That's your problem to solve, Hyanwu said. Tell them whatever you want. We won't contradict your story as long as you stay away from human space. Dexvan looked at his council members one by one. Each of them nodded reluctantly. The warlord turned back to Hyanwu. The Vorath Empire will withdraw from this sector. We will not return to human space. But know this, Captain Hyanwu, the Vorath, do not forget. Someday, we will have removed this weakness. And when that day comes, we may return. If that day comes, we'll deal with it then, Hyanwu said. But today, you leave. The walk back to the Morning Star felt different from the walk to the throne room. The Vorath guards still surrounded Hyanwu, Giwan, and Suho, but their posture had changed. They no longer looked at the humans with contempt. Instead, they watched them with wary uncertainty, as if the 3 small creatures might explode at any moment. As they passed through the corridors, Hyanwu noticed Vorath warriors stopping to watch them. Word was already spreading through the ship. The humans who made the warlord back down. The species that turned conquest into comedy. Some of the warriors touched their own ration containers unconsciously, as if seeing them differently now. When they reached the docking bay, the lead guard spoke. Your species is clever. But cleverness alone will not protect you forever. Maybe not, Hyanwu replied. But today, it was enough. The airlock closed behind them. Inside the Morning Star, Minho was waiting at the controls, relief obvious on his face. Captain, I've been monitoring Vorath communications. Their fleet is preparing to jump. They're really leaving, good Hyanwu said, settling into his captain's chair. Maintain a safe distance and keep recording everything. I want documentation of their departure. Through the viewport, they watched as the massive Vorath dreadnoughts began powering up their jump drives. One by one, the enormous ships started disappearing in flashes of blue light. The Eternal Dominion was the last to leave, hovering in space for a long moment as if Dexvin was reconsidering his decision. Then it too vanished, and human space was empty again. Giwan checked her console. All Vorath signatures are gone. They actually did it. They left. Now we send the cancel code, Hyan Wu said. No point in humiliating them if they kept their word. Captain Suho said hesitantly, Are you sure? We could release the information anyway. Weaken the Vorath Empire across the entire galaxy. Hyan Wu shook his head. We gave our word. Besides, they'll weaken themselves. Every species they conquered will have heard rumors about this. Seeds of doubt are already planted. The Vorath will spend years trying to rebuild their reputation, and that's punishment enough. But what if they come back? Minho asked. Then we'll deal with it, Hyan Wu said. But something tells me they won't. Not because they're afraid of us, but because they're embarrassed. And embarrassment lasts longer than fear. However, Hyan Wu was wrong about one thing. The information did get out, just not the way anyone expected. 3 days later, while the Morning Star was still traveling back to the nearest human colony, Minho detected an unusual transmission. Someone had hacked into the Vorath fleet's communication logs during their withdrawal. The logs showed internal communications between Vorath ships, including detailed discussions about the kimchi incident, emergency orders to restructure their food supply chains. The hacker, whoever they were, had released everything to the galactic information networks. Within hours, the story spread across known space. The Vorath Empire, conquerors of thousands of worlds, running on stolen Korean recipes. Memes started appearing on communication channels. Jokes circulated through diplomatic corps. News networks picked up the story, each adding their own commentary. The Zenthari resistance was the first to respond publicly. Their leader made a statement. For 3 days, we fought the Vorath with everything we had. We should have just asked them about their lunchboxes. The Krivax Federation released historical combat footage, editing and images of kimchi containers wherever Vorath rations appeared. The video went viral across multiple species networks. Independent news organizations started investigating. They found records of the Sayanum Agricultural Research Colony. They interviewed Korean survivors who remembered family members who had worked there. They documented the traditional recipes and compared them to leaked Vorath military specifications. Everything matched perfectly. The mockery was relentless and merciless. Hyan Wu watched the galactic news feeds with mixed feelings. We kept our word, he said to his crew. We didn't release the information. Not our fault, someone else did. The Vorath are going to think we betrayed them, Jiwan pointed out. Probably, Hyan Wu agreed, but they can't prove it. And besides, they're too busy dealing with the fallout to worry about us. The fallout was indeed spectacular. Within 2 weeks, 3 former Vorath subject worlds declared independence. The Vorath sent ships to retake them, but the local populations fought back with unexpected ferocity. They weren't afraid anymore. How could you fear an empire that couldn't make its own lunch? Within a month, 17 Vorath-controlled sectors reported increased resistance activity. Species that had surrendered without firing a shot were now ambushing supply convoys and sabotaging Vorath infrastructure. The psychological warfare that had been the Vorath's greatest weapon had turned against them. The Galactic Council, a loose organization of independent species, held an emergency session to discuss the situation. For the first time in decades, they talked about coordinating defense against the Vorath. Before, it had seemed pointless. The Vorath were too strong, too inevitable. But now, knowing the truth about their logistics, their supply chains, their dependencies, other species saw opportunities. The Council sent a formal invitation to Earth, asking humanity to join as a full member. They wanted to learn more about these humans who had turned back the Vorath without firing a shot. They wanted to understand the psychological warfare that proved more effective than weapons. Back on Earth, Hyan Wu and his crew were treated as heroes. The Morning Star docked at the main orbital station to cheering crowds. Government officials wanted briefings. Military commanders wanted tactical analysis. Scientists wanted to study the Vorath ration samples they had collected, but the strangest request came from the Cultural Ministry. They wanted to add kimchi, doenjang, and other traditional Korean foods to the official human diplomatic gift packages. If it can stop an invasion, the minister explained, imagine what it could do for peaceful negotiations. Hyun-woo's grandmother, who was 94 years old and living in a retirement community on Earth, became an instant celebrity. News crews interviewed her about her kimchi recipe. She was baffled by all the attention. It's just kimchi, she kept saying. I've been making it the same way for 70 years. Why is everyone so excited? When they explained that her recipe had helped save humanity from an alien invasion, she laughed. Of course it did. Good kimchi can solve any problem. I tried to tell you children this, but you never listened to your grandmother. The Morning Star's crew eventually returned to their regular cargo runs, but nothing was quite the same. Other ships would hail them just to say they had met the kimchi diplomats. Stations offered them free docking. Some alien species who had heard the story asked if they could trade for authentic Korean food. Minho started a side business exporting traditional Korean ingredients to other species. It turned out many aliens found fermented foods delicious once they tried them. We're making more profit from food than from cargo hauling, he reported to Hyun-woo. Maybe we should change our business model. 6 months after the Vorath retreat, strange reports started coming in. The Vorath Empire had withdrawn from all their forward positions. They had pulled back to their core territories. Intelligence suggested they were undergoing massive internal restructuring, focusing on agricultural development and food science. Some species celebrated, thinking the Vorath were finished. But Hyun-woo knew better. They're learning, he told Ju-won during a quiet moment on the bridge. They're adapting. That's actually more dangerous than if we defeated them in battle. You think they'll come back? Eventually, but not for a long time. And when they do, they'll be different. They won't make the same mistake twice, so we just wait. We wait. We prepare. And we remember that sometimes the best weapon is not the strongest one, but the most unexpected one. Hyun-woo smiled. Though I never expected that weapon would be my grandmother's lunch. A year after the incident, the Galactic Council established a new award, the Culinary Defense Medal, given to individuals who resolved conflicts through cultural exchange rather than violence. Hyun-woo, Ji-won, Suho, and Minho were the first recipients. During the ceremony, a representative from the Zenthari approached Hyun-woo. We studied what you did, how you turned their strength into weakness using truth and embarrassment. We are teaching these techniques to other species. You may have created a new form of warfare. I just opened a lunchbox, Hyun-woo said modestly. You did more than that. You showed us that empires built on fear can be destroyed by laughter. That reputation can be a weakness if it is built on lies. That small actions can have enormous consequences. The Zenthari bowed respectfully. You gave hope to every small species in the galaxy. That night, Hyun-woo video called his grandmother. She was in her kitchen, naturally, making kimchi for the retirement community. Grandmother, did you ever imagine your recipe would become famous across the galaxy? She laughed, her hands working the cabbage with practiced ease. Your grandfather used to say my kimchi was good enough to stop wars. I thought he was just being sweet. Turns out he was right. The whole galaxy wants to learn how to make it now. Good food brings people together. Even aliens, apparently. She paused, looking directly at the camera. But you tell those Vorath something for me. If they want good kimchi, they should not steal it from farmers. They should learn to make it themselves with respect and patience. That is the Korean way, I'll tell them, grandmother. If I ever see them again, oh, you will, she said confidently. Good food always brings people back, even enemies. And when they come back, you make sure they know who taught you everything you know about kimchi. Hyun-woo laughed. I will, grandmother. I promise. As the call ended, Hyun-woo looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Vorath were rebuilding. Other species were learning new ways to resist tyranny. The galaxy was changing, all because one human opened a lunch box and recognized his grandmother's cooking. It was not the ending anyone expected when the Vorith fleet first arrived. But it was, perhaps, the ending that made the most sense. Because in the end, the greatest conquests are not won with weapons or fear. They are won with truth, courage, and occasionally, very good fermented vegetables. The Morning Star set course for its next destination, carrying cargo, dreams, and several containers of authentic Korean food. Just in case they needed to stop another invasion, you never knew when good kimchi might save the galaxy again.